In Formula One, the smallest detail can ignite the biggest storm. At the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, Oscar Piastri became the center of attention, not for his speed, but for escaping a penalty that had already punished another driver earlier this season. The incident seemed minor. Piastri's McLaren entered the fast lane of the pit lane too early after a red flag interruption in FP2. Yet this tiny timing error, just 19 seconds before the official restart message, set the paddock on fire. Because earlier in the year at Imola, Franco Colapinto had committed the very same offense during qualifying and was handed a painful grid penalty. Two drivers, one rule, two completely different outcomes. Fans immediately asked the obvious question: why did Piastri walk away with only a reprimand while Colapinto paid the price? Was it a fair interpretation of the regulations or another example of the FIA's notorious inconsistency? To understand why this small moment created such a big debate, we need to look at the rule itself. According to the race director's event notes, when a session is suspended, whether free practice or qualifying, no car is allowed to enter the fast lane of the pit lane until the official restart time has been confirmed through the FIA's messaging system. It's a strict and clear instruction designed to avoid confusion and ensure fairness. At Monza, McLaren released Piastri into the fast lane at 17:13.50, reacting to the track clear message that signaled the circuit was safe again after Antonelli's crash. But the critical detail is that the official restart time was not published until 19 seconds later. That gap was enough to put Piastri and McLaren on the wrong side of the regulation. By the letter of the law, it was a breach. And yet the stewards chose a softer path, handing only a reprimand. So why did Oscar Piastri escape with just a warning when Franco Colapinto was punished at Imola? The stewards pointed to one crucial difference: the session. Piastri's infringement happened during free practice, where no direct sporting advantage could realistically be gained. Colapinto, on the other hand, committed the offense in qualifying, where every second matters and the potential to gain an unfair grid position is obvious. That distinction, according to the FIA, justified the different outcomes. McLaren also admitted fault, explaining that they had misread the track clear message as a signal to send their driver out. The stewards accepted this reasoning, framing it as an operational mistake rather than a deliberate attempt to bend the rules. Still, the decision raised eyebrows, because in Formula One, the line between mistake and advantage is often razor thin, and many wondered if the same leniency would have been granted to a smaller team. The verdict came quickly: a reprimand for McLaren and Piastri, nothing more. On the surface, the issue seemed settled, but within minutes, the reaction across the paddock and online was fierce. Fans began drawing comparisons to Colapinto's penalty, claiming the FIA had applied double standards. Some argued that the rule had been broken in both cases and should have carried the same weight regardless of session. Others countered that free practice incidents should never influence the grid, and therefore the reprimand was appropriate. For McLaren, the decision was a relief. Avoiding a grid drop in Monza, one of the most unforgiving tracks for overtaking, was crucial. Yet for many observers, the damage was already done. It wasn't about Piastri's luck, but about consistency. In a sport where milliseconds define results, the perception that rules bend depending on context can be more dangerous than the infraction itself. As word spread, the incident became the weekend's hot topic. Engineers from rival teams quietly suggested McLaren had been lucky to get away with only a warning. Journalists pressed the stewards for clarity, questioning whether the same decision would have been made had this occurred in qualifying. Fans on social media fueled the debate further, posting side-by-side comparisons of Piastri's reprimand and Colapinto's grid penalty. Some accused the FIA of favoritism toward bigger teams and rising stars like Piastri, while others pointed out that lesser-known drivers often bear the brunt of harsh rulings. Even former drivers weighed in on broadcast commentary, highlighting how inconsistency in stewarding has long been a sore spot for Formula One. By the time Saturday rolled around, the conversation was no longer about lap times or tire choices, it was about trust. Could the FIA truly apply its own rulebook evenly, or was perception now dictating reality? Digging deeper, the reasoning becomes clearer, at least on paper. The stewards stressed that context is everything. In qualifying, entering the pit lane early could allow a driver to position themselves for a faster lap or better track position, creating a tangible sporting gain. In free practice, they argued, such a move offers no real benefit since times don't decide the grid. That logic shaped their decision to go softer on Piastri. But this explanation only fueled further speculation. Was the FIA protecting itself from criticism by differentiating between sessions, or was McLaren's growing status as a top team influencing the leniency? The whispers in Monza suggested both possibilities. Teams know that precedents matter. Today it's free practice, tomorrow it could be qualifying under slightly different circumstances. And if the line isn't clear, then every decision risks being judged not by rules, but by perception. This wasn't the first time Formula One has wrestled with the shadow of inconsistent stewarding. Fans still remember Lewis Hamilton losing a pole position in Monaco over a yellow flag infringement, or Sebastian Vettel's countless disputes with race control during the early 2010s. Even Fernando Alonso has been on both sides of controversial rulings, sometimes escaping with warnings, other times facing race-defining penalties. Each incident created the same lingering question. Are the rules applied equally, or are they interpreted based on circumstance, reputation, or even politics? The Piastri-Colapinto comparison revived that history in sharp focus. It wasn't just about a 19-second mistake, it was about fairness. When one driver sees his weekend ruined, while another gets away with a slap on the wrist, memories of past inconsistencies resurface. And those memories make fans wonder if Formula One has ever truly mastered the art of equal justice. For Piastri, the reprimand was a lucky escape, leaving him free to fight at the sharp end in Monza. For Colapinto, the contrast was a bitter reminder of how unforgiving Formula One can be. But for the FIA, the real issue runs deeper: credibility. Every ruling sets a precedent, and every inconsistency chips away at trust. Today, it was a free practice infraction with no direct impact on the grid. Tomorrow, the same situation could unfold in qualifying or even a race, where the stakes are far higher. And when that moment comes, every decision made in Monza will be scrutinized all over again. Because Formula One thrives on precision, and if the rule book feels flexible, then the sport risks being defined not by competition on track, but by debates off it. The clock may have saved Piastri this time, but it also set the timer on the next controversy.